enjoy the photography process from start to finish 100%. Hi guys, my name is Matti Sulanto and I'm a photographer, and today I'm gonna take a photo walk here in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and I have with me a lens that is a little bit tricky to use. And while I'm walking, I'd like to ask, why on earth would you use a setup like this when you have so many easier options to create photos these days? This lens is the 7 Artisans 28mm f5.6 fully manual lens. This is actually a Leica M lens that I'm using on my Sony A7 Mark IV with an adapter. It's not any trickier to use than any fully manual lens, but by modern standards, any fully manual lens is a little bit tricky when you compare to some other options that we have. This is a super tiny wide-angle full-frame lens. I'll probably make a proper review video also about this lens later, but today I'm just gonna walk with this lens and try to create some awesome pictures. The weather today is not the best possible. It's a little bit cloudy and overcast. I was actually hoping for some sharp hard shadows and things like that are typical here in the tropics, but today it happens to be a cloudy, overcast day. But this is photography and I'll just have to do whatever I can in this weather. Back in the day, manual lenses like this were the only way to make photos, but these days we have so many options to create photos, and one of the easiest way is of course to use a phone camera or camera phone. And with the phone camera you absolutely need no knowledge or know-how on photography. You just hit the button and admire the results. But there are some concerning things going on with phone camera photography these days, or the image processing in camera phones. I recently saw a video that showed how some of the camera phones add things to a photograph, or they add details that were never there when you hit the shutter. And I think that is a slightly concerning thing, because that's not a photograph anymore. It's some sort of illustration or camera's interpretation of the scene, and it's not a document anymore. And I think that kind of is counterintuitive or counterproductive or whatever, counter something, because I think photography is all about reproducing the scene as you saw it, and without adding anything or taking away anything, because that's one of the unique features of photograph, that it can reproduce the scene as you saw it, and no other media can do that as photograph can do it in a split second. Then on the other end of the camera spectrum, we have a system camera. It could be a film camera or a digital system camera, but I'm not going to talk about film cameras because my film cameras at the moment are more than 10,000 kilometers away. So I'm only talking about digital cameras. But even a digital camera or setup like this, if you compare this to a phone camera, this is quite a complex setup It has all these dials and buttons and everything. Of course, I could put this on fully automatic mode, especially if I had an autofocus lens mounted on the camera. But nonetheless, this is quite a complex device compared to a phone camera or camera phone, whatever way you want to say it. Let me remind you of the workshop I'm organizing in Helsinki, Finland in August 2023 with my good friend Peter Forsgård. The workshop is all about storytelling with multiple pictures, and I guarantee you're gonna be a better photographer after the workshop. Please do check out all the details in the link down below and sign up as soon as possible. We'd love to see you in Helsinki in August 2023. Of course, it makes no sense to add complexity to photography just for the sake of adding it or just to show off your technical skills in photography. But sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. Sometimes you'll just want to feel the clicks in the aperture ring and be aware of the aperture number that you chose. And you also want to check and be aware of the shutter speed that the camera is using or you have manually chosen, and check that it's suitable for that particular situation. And also it's nice to look through the viewfinder when you turn the manual focus ring and see how the picture comes in focus. You can't beat that. It is so enjoyable to make every move intentionally and know exactly what you're doing. Enjoy the photography process from start to finish 100%. Sure enough, I'll probably miss a few quick moments with a slow setup like this, but then again, you will always lose some moments regardless of your gear setup. But also with a slow setup like this, I'll probably consider carefully each scene, whether it's worth all the steps I have to take before I hit the shutter, and therefore it probably, hopefully leads to more carefully composed pictures and better outcome. And I'll probably also take fewer pictures, which makes it easier to post-process and look through or go through all the pictures that I've shot and select the possible keepers that I managed to capture. I'll probably end up with less junk photos. Of course, a 2-hour photo walk like this doesn't represent real life in a sense that usually, at least for me, it takes several days or weeks to get together some decent photos. But now within 2 hours, I try to get something like maybe 5 or 10 decent photos that I can show to you. But those photos are not necessarily the best ever pictures because I took all of them within a couple of hours. I guess all digital pictures, even in their purest form, are more processed and less, let's say, real than film ever was. But if you use all manual lens, all manual settings, and shoot raw to avoid camera-induced special effects, you'll pretty much end up what you set up doing in the first place. You'll capture the scene as it was, nothing removed, nothing added. And I think that's what photography is all about. Capturing the scene as you saw it without adding anything, removing anything, or nothing artificial in it. And by the way, I like this lens. It has its flaws, but I think it's a really nice walk-around lens. It's a super tiny wide angle for full-frame cameras. It's fully manual, but it also keeps me aware of my settings, and it makes me consider a little bit longer before I hit the shutter, and I like that. I hope these thoughts of mine were interesting and thought-provoking, and if they were, please consider buying me a cup of coffee. There's a link down below. If you don't live in Finland, thank you so much for watching, and I'll definitely see you again in the next video.